I know legacy is a big part of what you do. What do you want your legacy to be for the city of Houston?
Impactful. You know, look, I grew up in the hood. Okay, if um, if some kids in communities of color, for example, have been inspired to go beyond where they were thinking, I'm good.
All right, what would you say are your three biggest accomplishments during your tenure?
Kind of tough. When I first came in, from a financial point of view, it was pension reform. We've been plaguing the city for 20 plus years. An unfunded pension liabilities of 8.2 billion was going in the wrong direction. We tackled that in the first 2 years, brought all the unions and business groups together, passed by the legislature, a Democratic leadership, Republican in Austin who passed it. And now instead of the unfunded liability being 8.2 billion, it's now under 2.2 billion and going down. Balancing the 8 budgets, I'll turn over to the next mayor a fund balance that is significantly greater than the $160 million deficit I inherited. So from a financial point of view, I'm proud of that. During my term, we have faced 7 federally declared disasters. Not 1, not 2, 7. More than any mayor in the city of Houston. And that's not counting COVID, social civil unrest after the murder of George Floyd, and in 2023, extreme hot weather and water main leaks. But we've managed through all of those events, and the city is still standing and moving forward. I'm proud of that. And then I go back to complete communities, where we identified 10 communities that have been underserved and under-resourced for decades. And we're investing in those communities, transforming those communities. And that includes housing, affordable housing, parks and green space, economic job opportunities. And so when you look at these 10 communities, we've made significant progress. It's not mission accomplished, but it's significant progress.
Well, we work on that every single day. It's about community policing. It's about building relationships. It's about having police officers working with the community working with police. It's about making sure that we're being transparent, that we're being respectful, we're being appreciative. That's something that you work on every single day. You never get to the point where you say, we're there, it's done. That you do that on a constant basis. But at the same time, you try to reduce the need for police being in your area. And that's why you don't start with police. You have to start with building up communities and neighborhoods to put them in a better position. And so that's why the focus for me has been on complete communities. Because you've got to have quality housing, affordable housing, parks and green space. You got to eliminate these food deserts. You have to have economic job business opportunities. That's one of the reasons why I was very intentional when I came in about building up our youth summer program, okay? 450 jobs, that's not going to do anything when you got thousands and thousands of kids who want to work, they want to make their own money. And so that's why we're offering 10,900 summer jobs. When they are working, okay, they're doing things. They are not only helping themselves, they'll be helping their families. Improving these communities is very important. And that's one of the reasons why I have elected to stay in the same neighborhood in which I was born and reared. You all know I grew up in Acres Home, the Fofo. I still live in the Fofo because it's important for the community and communities like Acres Home, Sunnyside, and Fifth Ward, and Cashmere Gardens, and South Park, all these communities, to know that we're not waiting for some fire point to erupt, and then you go say, I see you, and we're going to be doing these things. You got to make the reforms, do the improvements, meet people's needs before a conflict occurs. So it is a day-to-day relationship. You just got to be upfront. You got to speak very transparent to people because credibility is everything. is everything. And I certainly want to thank the county and for what the direction that they are taking. Who we select, who we put on the bench matters, okay? For anybody who tell you it doesn't matter, let me tell you, it matters. Because if you don't have an appreciation of the walk that people have to take, what they're having to go through, you want a system that's just, but just for everybody. And that's, and so who's on the bench matters. And so I certainly want to acknowledge those 19 African-American women who stepped up and now on the bench. We lost, one died, but I want to acknowledge that. And so that's why Carla Braley is here. She's the vice chair of the state Democratic Party. Carla, raise your hand up again. Carla Braley. I wanted to acknowledge you before you left because people that are in key positions all the way down from the national, state, local level, they matter. And elections matter. So you can't really talk about the judicial system or the political system or what's happening at the county, what's happening at the city, on the national level without participating in the process. And so Carla Braley, thank you so very much for being a champion for all of us within the Democratic Party. One of the issues that we're having to deal with right now is the juvenile curfew. That's what it has been in place since 1995. And when it was first put in place, I think shortly after that, there was like 14,000 citations that were issued. Now, last year, I think it was 137. And every 3 years, we have to decide whether or not we're going to continue it or not. And so we're looking at it right now before City Council. If a kid is out there, I think I want to say between midnight and 6, then they can be stopped. They can also receive a fine of like $500 to them for their parent, what have you. And so we're looking at making modifications. And I will tell you that I am inclined to either significantly reduce that fine or get rid of it. We're looking at making modifications. And if somebody, a kid, let's say if you're 12, 13, 15 years old is out there, instead of giving you that, making it a criminal sort of deal, referring to what we call teen court, where you go to teen court and the prosecutors are teens themselves, okay? And we use it more of a teachable moment. And because the key is we don't want our kids on the streets at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Okay, you don't want, so we got to have a tool to say no, but then but you don't want to criminalize them too at the same time. So we're trying to work through that, and certainly your input and on that will be very, very important. It's been in place since 1995. It's up for renewal right now, and we're trying to work through that. But the criminal justice system has been a pipeline. We're having to address that because you literally can change the trajectory of somebody's life. And so it has to be a just system that works for everyone. And I do, on this issue, I do want to give a special credit and acknowledgement to the county for the leadership that they have taken and the substantive changes that they have. I met with the leadership of Texas Central several months ago, and I told them that unless they incorporated an MWBE policy that mirrored that of the city of Houston, that the trains would be running around Dallas, but would not be coming to the city of Houston. And so subsequently, the board did meet, and the board, a couple of months ago, adopted the city's MWBE requirements. So we are moving forward. And let me say, elections do matter, and who you vote for does matter. Don't think that it doesn't matter, okay? And let me say to you that as mayor of the city of Houston, I can't do my job without having other folk, key people in key positions that are doing their jobs. And since the focus is on state of Black Houston, and I'm going to direct my response to that, bearing in mind I work with a lot of people, I pour on a lot of folk, but I don't want you to think that I'm the only African American in a position of power. And Mayor, I want you to know who I've appointed. And so C.J. Messiah is the director of our General Service Department. Stephen Williams, these are African Americans that I'm naming. Stephen Williams is the director of Public Health Department. Jane Cheeks is the director of the Human Resource Department. Ron Lewis, African American, is the city attorney that heads the entire city legal department. Dr. Lawson heads the entire Houston Public Library system. Judge Elaine Marshall is over all of the municipal courts, female African American. Takasha Francis, one of my law students from Thurgood Marshall, heads my Department of Neighborhoods. Kalisha Wright, when we talk about business opportunity, female, she's over the entire Office of Business of Opportunity. When it comes to Harry Hayes, he's the Director of Operations and over solid waste. Chris Butler is Director of Permitting. Marvelette Hunter is the Chief of Staff with me. Mary Benton is with Communications. Veronica Weatherford is the over Correspondence and Constituent Services. Shannon Buggs is over Complete Communities. All of these communities that are underserved and under-resourced. These are just some of the people. And they are African Americans who are leading these departments in key positions. And then we have to make our streets safer. So we have started the Safe Street Initiative to make them safer. We've put in place the goal of reaching Vision Zero, no fatalities on our streets. We're working in that regard. I do want to thank the county, Commissioner Rodney Ellis for the and Commissioner Adrian Garcia. They've invested more dollars in building more bike lanes, bike infrastructure. I really want to thank them for that. And then we're trying to connect communities through our Bayou 2020 program and other initiatives that we're putting in place. And I would say to you on gentrification, that's why Complete Communities again. We want people to stay in their neighborhoods. But they can't stay if you can't afford the home. If you can't afford the home, you got to go. So we've got to build affordable housing. And then we got to give people better opportunities and pay them more. I was at the airport yesterday talking to about 200 employees at the airport. My airport. And they were telling me that some of them, working with either companies, were making $7, $8, $9, $10 an hour. And they said, Mayor, this is at your airport. And on your watch. And I said, I got it. I got that. Okay? And on my watch, we're going to change that. Okay? Because you can't just have affordable housing if people are not in the position to be able to afford the house and the electricity and the food. Okay? So I'm looking at a realtor right here in this room. You know? President. And so we've got to work together so we don't have gentrification. We can't build a city for everybody else and we lose out. And that's why I tell people, since State of Black America, State of Black Youth, that's why I tell people that have gone to the lands. The diaspora is over. It's time for you to come home. No disrespect if you live in Pearland, Woodland, Sugarland. No disrespect. No disrespect. But it's time for you to come home. And we've got to build a city that you feel comfortable living in, because the school system will not improve until you are in the neighborhood, okay? And so I just got to do a better job of convincing you it's time to come home. There are 300 acres in Sunnyside that have been contaminated because of the landfill. They've been laying dormant for a long, long time, and it has pulled down, in many ways, the development of Sunnyside. What we are looking at now, when we put out a request for proposal across the world, not just in Houston or in the United States, we are looking at taking those 300 acres and reinventing or repurposing that into a solar farm, which potentially could be the largest solar farm in the United States of America. If we can reinvent, if we can do that with those 300 acres in Sunnyside, it literally will transform that community for the better.